Здравствуйте. Сегодня я буду продолжать читать книгу Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I want you to decide for me, answered his client. I'm not sure of anything anymore. Very well, said the lawyer. Now tell me the part in your will about disappearing for 3 months or more. Was that Hyde's idea? It was, whispered Dr. Jekyll. Who was planning to murder you, said the lawyer. You have had a lucky escape. I've had a lesson too, said his client, in pain and sadness. Oh, what a lesson! And he covered his face with his hands. On his way out of the house, the lawyer stopped and spoke the pulley. By the way, he said, a letter was handed in today for your master. Who brought it, and what did it look like? Nobody came in except the postman, sir, said the servant in surprise. That worries me, thought Mr. Utterson as he walked home. Clearly, the letter arrived by the laboratory door. Perhaps it was even written in the study. I must think about this carefully. In the street, the newsboys was still shouting, read all about it. Terrible murder. The lawyer thought was sad. One of his clients was dead, and the life and reputation of another were in danger. Mr. Utterson did not usually ask anyone for advice. Today, however, was different. That evening, he sat by his fireside with his chief clerk, Mr. Guest, beside him. The lawyer and his clerk had worked together for many years and knew and understood each other. Also, Mr. Guest had been involved in business with Dr. Jekyll and knew him well. Outside it was foggy and dark, but the room was bright and warm, and there was a bottle of good whiskey on the table. This is a sad business about Mr. Danvers Carroll, said Mr. Utterson. Yes, indeed, sir. The murderer was a madman, of course. I would like your opinion about that, replied the lawyer. I have a letter from the murderer here. Mr. Guest was interested in the study of handwriting. His eyes brightened at once. A murder's letter, he sighed. That will be interesting. He looked carefully at the writing. Not a madman, I think, he said, but what unusual handwriting. Just then a servant entered with a note. Is that note from Dr. Jekyll? Asked Mr. Guest. As though I recognize the handwriting. Is it anything private, Mr. Utterson? An invitation to dinner. Why? Do you want to see the letter? Just for a moment, please, sir. The clerk put the 2 letters side by side and studied them carefully. Thank you, sir, he said. Very interesting. For a moment, Mr. Utterson hesitated, wondering and worried. At last, he put his thoughts into words. Why did you look at the 2 letters together? He asked. Well, sir, in many ways, the 2 are surprisingly similar. How strange, Mr. Guest. I must ask you not to speak of this business to anyone. Of course not, sir, said the clerk. You can depend on me. Shortly afterwards, he said good night to his master and hid his way home. When he was alone, Mr. Utterson looked at the 2 letters in his cupboard. Well, he thought, so Henry Jekyll wrote that letter for a murderer. His face was as calm and expressionless as usual, but his heart was filled with fear for his old friend.